Whoa guys, we're in a familiar location. If you remember my older videos a few months ago, I sat on this couch a lot. And that's because I'm back in my hometown for Thanksgiving. You know, me and Kyle, we took a trip as the boys, and we're kind of just chilling right now. But, you know, I'm here for Thanksgiving, and that's kind of secondary to what I'm talking about today, because I don't know if you guys know this, but Netflix does not let you use Wi-Fi networks that aren't your home network anymore. And I don't live here, so I wanted to watch Netflix. Sorry, that's the real reason. Sorry, Mom and Dad, though, you're finding out about this right now. My bad. And the reason why I wanted to watch Netflix in particular is because they just came out with a new Scott Pilgrim anime. You know, Scott Pilgrim I love as a franchise. I made a whole video about it. Don't watch it. It's in 10 frames per second. How? I don't know, but it's a good film. It fills all these video game references, all these comic booky tropes, and Ramona Flowers is hot. I'll stand by that till the day I die. Yes, I want a big titty goth GF in my life. And I always just rewatch this film all the time. It's one of the greatest. I actually rewatched it the other day. And whenever I heard that they were announcing an anime, I was like, oh, buddy, okay, I'm a little skeptical. But they said that they were getting the original cast back, which I was like, Michael Cera and Mary Elizabeth Weinstein. I think I said her name wrong, but whatever, sorry. I do love your acting work. But during an anime, I'm like, I guess I'm not watching the sub this time. And I was already sold from it, so let's just jump right into the plot. You know, the anime starts out just like how the Scott Pilgrim story goes. Scott is dating a high schooler, which is kind of weird now that I think about it, but it's still we're still rolling with it. He's in a band called Sex Bob-omb, and Scott sees this girl named Ramona Flowers in her dreams, and he's like, "Whoa, okay, I gotta find where she is." So he eventually goes to this party and sees her, and he's like, "Do you like Sonic the Hedgehog?" Basically embarrassing himself, and he figures out that she works for Netflix. So he orders a DVD whenever you know, that used to be a thing, and waits for Ramona. And eventually she arrives, and Scott's like, "Hey, you want to go on a date with me?" And she's like, "Okay." So they go on a date, you know, having a nice grand time, and they end up almost having sex. And the next day he's like, "Please come to our show tonight. I don't want this to be a one-night stand." She's like, "Okay, sure, why not?" And they end up going to a show, and Scott gets assaulted by one of her evil exes. And wait, Scott lost? Yes, that's one of the biggest differences of this anime adaptation than the actual source material, is that Scott is just dead. Well, dead in quotations. I'm going to spoil this a little bit. And Ramona's like, "I don't think he's dead, so I'm going to search for this one guy I had a date with one time." And the show just goes through that kind of plot line. And, you know, we get to see these characters in a new way. We get to see Lucas Lee being a barista, which is kind of cool. We see Gideon Graves literally renamed Gordon Goose because it was a facade, and we get to see him broke. We get to see Matthew Patel, who got instantly killed in like the first 15 minutes of Scott Pilgrim, actually just be a menace and also perform on Broadway, which is kind of epic. And we just get to see the evil exes in a different light. We're going to see a lot more of Ramona. It's a very Ramona-heavy story, and she gets a lot of screen time. Scott Pilgrim is actually not very prevalent in this story. I think he's only actually in 3 out of the 8 episodes. I could be wrong. 3 or 4, maybe he has a few voice lines here and there, but he takes a back seat in this one. This is Ramona's story, okay? Ramona fans, rejoice. And I really like this take, you know. Ramona eventually does find Scott, which he was kidnapped by his future self because, you know, Scott and Ramona were having a little bit of problems in the future, but older Scott was just an idiot, and regular Scott was just like, "No, I'm not gonna do that." And old Scott's like, "Well, I don't believe you." And then old Ramona just throws him back into the past because he's like, "Man, you're an idiot." And, you know, they live happily ever after. And it's a very simple story, but there's a lot of Easter eggs to the Scott Pilgrim material that I really enjoy. You know, there's a whole segment in the show where they're making the Scott Pilgrim movie, and there's even a director called Edgar Wrong, which honestly, that was pretty funny. They also feature a few other references to Edgar Wright. One that I know off the top of my head is that they feature Simon Pegg and the one other British guy that are in most of Edgar Wright's movies. And honestly, that was pretty cool. It's a nice nod, and it blew my mind. And the animation is just goated. Like, every fight scene goes crazy. Like, look at that Sakuga. Ooh, yes. Oh. Ooh, look at that Sakuga. Don't look at my pants right now. Please. I peed myself, not cummied myself. That's what happened. Moving on. Everything about this show, I just loved. I knew I probably would love it because I love Scott Pilgrim, and I was right. So if I had to give this show a good rating, I would give it 9 out of 10. It did get a little self-referential too many times. Just that kind of annoyed me a little bit, but I got over it very fast because, you know, I'm like, whatever. And also Wallace Wells makes out with the vegan guy, and that's kind of funny. Anyways, hope you enjoyed my thoughts on the Scott Pilgrim anime. Just a little quickie for you guys, because I like talking about animes and stuff. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to check out my last video, you can click right here to watch my video about the Persona 5 musical. It was pretty good, so I highly recommend it. Or you can click my face, which is now my YouTube profile picture, to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And I'll see you guys in my next video, so toodaloo!